Yeah, good afternoon, Kirtan. We are in the last session today, our eighth session is per our plan. And in this eighth session, we are going to discuss chapter number 9 and 10. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
May increase bit size. Yeah. In previous lecture, we have discussed chapter number 7 and 8, that is clearing and settlement system, and legal and regulatory environment. These two chapters we have discussed in previous lecture. In this lecture, we are going to discuss the last two chapters, that is accounting and taxation and sales practice and investor protection services. These sales practice and investor protection services are as such very general in nature, that as an advisor, do's and don'ts, and as an investor, do's and don'ts. This is basically given over here. And accounting and taxation is quite technical thing, that if you are making profit from derivative transaction, then how the accounting of that will be done. As an individual as such, it may not affect much more. But if any company is doing is trading in derivatives, and due to which obviously they need to pay margin, they need to pay premium, they will receive premium, they will make profit or loss in the forward contract, future contract, or option contract. So how they will do the accounting of that, that is mentioned in chapter number 9. So let us start. In how many students have joined? 3 students: Kirtan, Divya, and Onesme. Accounting and taxation. Chapter number 9. So first one is accounting for forward contract. If you are participating in forward contract, then how accounting will be done. Then the next topic is accounting in future contract. If you are participating in future contract, then how accounting will be done. And then in option contract, accounting in index options in case of cash settled options. And then one more topic is given, that is related to taxation. Yes, taxation. So this we are going to discuss. Let us discuss in brief. We will not take much time today. Yeah. When forward contract is for hedging, we all are aware that forward, future, and options are done either for hedging or for speculation or for arbitrage. Now, if it is done for, you are participating in forward contract for hedging, then the accounting is alag. Accounting is different in way. When the forward contract is either for speculation, that is trading, so it includes both arbitrage as well as speculation. In that case, the accounting will be different. How in the case of hedging, the premium or discount, that is difference between the value at spot rate and forward rate, should be amortized over the life of the contract. What it wants to say, that suppose you want to hedge wheat, you want to hedge your position in wheat or rice, whatever it is, then what is the difference between current price and the price at which you are entering into forward contract? The difference will be amortized. Either it will be profit or loss, whatever it will be. It is not actually actual profit or loss, but it will be amortized during life of the contract. Suppose the contract is of 2 months and price difference is total 2,000. Then 1,000 is considered for income or expenditure considered for first month, 1,000 will be considered for income on expenditure of second month. Student, is it clear? Over here, premium or discount means the difference between spot price and future price. If future price is higher than spot price, it is considered as premium. If future price is lower than spot price, it is considered as discount. Is it clear? Amortize means distributed. Over here, amortize means distributed in the life of the contract. The exchange difference, that is the difference between the value of settlement date, reporting date, and value of the previous reporting date, inception of the contract, is recognized in profit and loss account statement of the year. Means over here, exchange difference means at what price you have entered into contract. Suppose you have entered into long position at 20 rupees, and on the date of maturity the price is 18. It means as you have taken long position and price decrease, you have made 2 rupees loss. So this is shown as loss in the profit and loss account. If on maturity the price is 22, it means you have made a profit of rupees 2, and on maturity the 2 rupees profit will be reflected in profit and loss account. Is it clear, student? And profit and loss on cancellation or renewal of contract. Suppose due to any circumstances you are cancelling the contract or renewing the contract, then it will be recognized in profit and loss account. If it is profit, then accordingly. If it is loss, then accordingly. So over here, if you are participating in forward contract, what we have learned in this section, you are participating in forward contract, and forward contract is done for hedging. You by taking some position, you want to hedge your existing position. In that case, this is the process. When trading means speculation purpose, if you are doing, no premium or discount is recognized. Means at whatever price you have entered into the contract, it is not at all written in the books of account. Means at the time of entry, at the time of entering into the contract, no entry is done in accounting. We have already learned forward contract have no initial value. You are just creating the understanding. There is no cash flow at all in forward contract, so no entry, no premium or discount is recognized. A gain or loss, that is the difference between the forward rate for contract previous year and valuation rate of the forward rate available at the year end reporting date for remaining maturity period, should be recognized in profit and loss account period. So it means when it is maturing, means suppose you have done the contract for today, you are entering into the forward contract with a maturity on May month. Then on May month, whatever the profit and loss you will make, that will be recognized in profit and loss account. It means in terms of forward contract, if you are entering it for speculation purpose, for speculation purpose, then only profit and loss will be recognized. Is it clear? Good. Okay. Ensure that you will also enter the attendance. Now coming to the future contract. If you are entering into future contract, then what will be the accounting procedure? Long position in future contract or short position in future contract? What will be the accounting procedure? So it starts from here. Accounting at the inception of the contract means when you are entering into future contract, what will be the accounting entries? So obviously when you are entering into the contract, you are paying margin. When you are entering into future contract, you are paying the margin. So cash outflow is there, irrespective of position. For long position also it is cash outflow. For short position also it is cash outflow. So that's why in bracket it is written accounting for initial margin. So what happened to that initial margin which you are paying in terms of account? Such initial margin paid or payable should be debited to initial margin equity index, equity stock future account. Means specific margin account is created. What is the name of that account? Ledger we are talking about, students. First semester account. Try to remember the concept of first semester account. Have you learned ledger or not? Journal entry, ledger, trial balance, and then final accounting. There is profit and loss account and balance sheet. So means journal entries will be created for it, and then ledger will be prepared. What will be the name of the ledger account? Initial margin, equity index, or equity stock future account, in which it will be debited. No entry is passed for recording the contract because no payment is made at the time except for the initial margin. Means when you are entering into the contract, future contract, there is no any other entry because you have just paid the margin. So this is how the margin account will be created. Now what will happen at the balance sheet date? Suppose you are in between, you are preparing balance sheet. Balance sheet is on date. All of you, I hope all of you are clear. Profit and loss account is for year, but balance sheet is on any particular date. You cannot say this is the balance sheet of so and so year. This is the balance sheet as on this date. Am I right? That's why it is written balance sheet as on 31st March 2020 or 2021. While the heading of the profit and loss account is profit and loss account for the year, for the accounting year 2021. This is how it is written. So at the balance sheet date, the balance of initial margin, equity index, equity stock future account should be shown separately under the head current. It is actually current assets, not currency assets. There is typing error. Current assets. So it is our assets. We have paid margin. It is our assets. Am I right? Right. So now how see the journal entries are also given. Deposit of the initial margin account. Initial margin account debit to bank account. Suppose you are paying additional margin. Initial margin account debit to bank account. Initial margin return, release. Suppose you have closed the contract and it is released. Then what happen? Bank account debit to initial margin account. This is very simple journal entries. Is it clear, students? Good. See over here, example is also given. Suppose Mr. X purchased a future contract on October 5, 2009. The initial margin calculated as per SPAN, standard standard portfolio analysis of risk. In previous lecture we have discussed 50,000. The margin for the subsequent days calculated as per the SPAN is as follows. So first date is 50,000. So see, margin account debit to bank account. Sixth, it is 55,000. It means you need to deposit 5,000 more. So initial margin account debit to bank account. Third day, it should be 45,000 as per the calculation. So again, 10,000 reverse entry. Bank account debit to initial margin account. Next day, it should be 47,000. So again, 2,000 need to be deposited. So margin account debit to bank account. Is it clear, student? We are discussing about future contract, how the accounting of future contract will be done. See, this is newer concept. If in future, if any one of you will engage yourself in such business, then it might be possible that CA, generally it is covered, but if suppose any MCOM person is there who is doing your accounting, that generally at CA level this will be included in that, but this is not in regular practice, because you will hardly find one person out of 1000 person. If any company, so, how many company you will find who is doing the, whose business is to do derivative, to trade in derivative? It will be less in number. Are you getting me, student? The number of persons whose business is to trade in derivative are less in number. So that's why, although many a time, even not only MCOM candidate who are doing the accounting, but even CA who have already learned this, but they are not practicing this because it is not required. They are generally doing the accounting for any manufacturing concern for which they are very much sound. So you need to show this to them. You need to show this document to them. Right? We might not be knowing all these things in nitty gritty, in much more clear, but once they will read it, they will get it exactly, that what they need to do and what they need not to do, what process they need to follow. Once they will go through this document, it will be clear to them, because finally they are the expert in this field. Okay, now accounting at the time of daily settlement, this about the margin. Now about the daily settlement, mark to market. I hope all of you are aware about this word, mark to market. Right, we have done problem solving also for the same. So all of you are aware, mark to market. Let us see. The payment made or received on account of daily settlement by client would be debited or credited to entitled account. Title means separate account, separate ledger account is required for mark to market margin. So mark to market margin, equity index, equity stock future account. This is the name of the ledger. The way we are preparing Kirtan's account, Avni's account, Onesme's account as a ledger account, same way you have to prepare the accounts for with such head. Sales account, purchase account, credit account, debit account, individual person's account, all such accounts we are creating. So how the accounting entry for that will be done? Deposit to MTM account, debit to bank account. If you are depositing, then M2M account will be debited and bank account will be credited. If you are adjusting additional amount, again MTM account debit to bank account credit. Or if you are receiving whatever the M2M amount which you have deposited, now you are receiving, then bank account debit to M2M account. How it will be done in the balance sheet? Debit credit balance in the mark to market margin, equity index, equity stock future account, the net amount paid received on the basis of movement of the price in index futures till the balance sheet date. So that will be again shown in the debit credit balance. That is, either it will be considered as profit or loss, because mark to market will lead to the profit or loss. So if credit balance, then profit; if debit balance, then loss. Even provision for loss is also done. provision for loss on equity stock or equity index future account. When you are entering into the future contract, there are chances that you will make profit or loss. So in that case, profit and loss provision account, provision for profit and loss, provision for loss account is created. Opening provision was less, hence increase. So profit and loss account debit to provision on loss of future account credit. Students, can we say why we are, this is very general question, can we say why we are creating provision for loss account, provision for bad debt and all such account? Any idea? If we will make loss, then also we need to debit from profit. We are doing provision for loss, that also we are debiting from profit. Then why we are doing this? Are you getting my question, student?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so can anyone tell me why? You might have learned this about the bad debt, provision for bad debt. Now provision for bad debt
See,
is
the reason to be in order, one plus the T plus one. Whenever you realize a transaction, if you lose, they have to get an account where to get this money before you get delayed.
okay. Onesme, you have explained, but somehow I am not able to get all the things. But what Avni has written is also right. Somehow I am not able to get what you are saying, Onesme. But what Avni has written is also right. Just go through that, and if you have any other views, Onesme, please just let us know. That if any big loss is made in a particular year, the profit of that year will reduce highly if such provisions will not be created. What we are doing, we are debiting from profit and loss and keeping the credit balance in provision account. And then whatever the bad debt will happen, that bad debt we are debiting from provisional account. So in short, every year we are accumulating some amount towards that provision. So that generally bad debt is one kind of uncertainty, and it is not possible that uncertainty will happen at a even space. It may happen at uneven space. Some year everything is going good. In some year there are 3 to 4 customers who are doing default. So it means your profit will be suppressed in that year. So that's why every year the some amount from the profit will be debited and keep it in the reserve and surplus. Provision. So same way over here, future contract sometimes it gives profit, sometimes it gives loss. So that's why provision for loss is created, so that your profit, you need not to show any exaggerated profit or exaggerated loss in any particular year. This may affect in accounting only and class. Suppose in 1 year you have made good profit, so you need to pay high tax if you are not doing the provision. Next year, many of your positions are in loss and you have made a loss. So it doesn't mean that taxation department will give you, income tax department will give you that money back. That okay, you have made loss in this year, please take this money back, the tax which you have paid in previous year. Is it clear? So again, simple accounting entry, profit and loss account debit to provision for loss on future account credit. Then final settlement. Accounting at the time of final settlement or squaring of the mark contract. Final settlement means on the date of maturity, or squaring off means you are closing your position before maturity. In both the case, what will happen? Profit loss so computed, because once there will be a settlement or squaring off, you will make profit or loss. So profit loss so computed should be recognized in the profit and loss account by corresponding debit credit to market margin account. We have already created mark to market margin account in which it will be debited and or credited. That account will be closed and the balance of that account will be taken into profit and loss account either as a profit or as a loss. See how it is taken. M2M account debit to profit account. If profit, if loss, then settlement square of profit and loss account debit to MTM. So it means in profit and loss it shows debit side. Over here in profit and loss it is shows credit side. And even entry for release of initial margin account, as you are closing your contract, the initial margin will be released. So bank account debit to initial margin account credit. So student, is it clear that how the accounting of future contract will be done? In nutshell, what we are doing when we are paying the margin, we are creating margin account where bank account debit to margin account credit. Every day we need to maintain mark to market account. So we are creating M2M account. Whenever we are closing our positions, we are accordingly debiting or crediting our profit or loss in M2M account, closing the M2M account, and transferring the balance to profit and loss account. If profit, then M2M account debit to profit account. If it is loss, then profit and loss account debit to M2M account. And initial margin is released. This is what the, in nutshell, initial margin is released. So again, reverse entry, bank account debit to initial margin account. Is it clear, student? Good. So now this is not much more important. Yeah, now coming to option contract. Once we are entering into the option contract, how the accounting will be done. So accounting in the inception of the option contract, the seller, writer, that is short position, either call or put, is required to pay initial margin. I hope all of you are agree with this statement. The seller or the writer, it means short position of the option, is required to pay initial margin. Am I right? Long position pays the premium, short position pays the margin. Long position pay the premium, that is expenditure. Short position pays the margin, that is just security money. So that the person who has taken a short position have obligations, so that margin will be collected to ensure the fulfillment of the obligations. Yes or no? Why only Kirtan is saying? Others have doubt that in option contract margin is collected from short position. Hello? Why any other student except Kirtan is not replying? If you have any question, then you can ask me. Students, you have doubt that in option contract, who is taking short position need to pay margin. Is it not discussed in class earlier? Okay. So short position need to pay margin. So yeah, right. You know what is the advantage of this online class? Is it, if you will say no, then I can show you the recording. Getting my point? We have everything arranged properly. You might have seen the third semester classroom, that is IAPM, and even this fourth semester class. Every day I am keep on updating it. Yeah, now so let us say what will happen to the short position, those the party who is taking short position, what will happen to their books of account? It should be debited to an appropriate account, say equity index option yeah, stock option margin account. So those who are taking short position, their margin account will be created. And as this is margin, which is just security money, so it will be considered as current assets in the balance sheet. In the balance sheet, it is considered as current assets. Buyer or the holder of the option, what they will get? They will be required to pay premium. They are required to pay premium. The books of the buyer holder, such premium should be debited to an appropriate account, say equity index stocks option premium account. So in short positions, margin account is created, and long for those who are taking long positions, premium account is created. In the books of seller writer, such premium received. So premium account will be to both, because long position is the payer of the premium account, and short position is receiving the premium. So in both the account entries will be there. In books of seller writer, such premium received should be credited to appropriate. So over there debited to that account, over here credited to that account. Account at the time of payment receipt of margin. Payment made or received by seller writer for margin should be credited, debited. So that as such we have it already discussed. If you are paying, then it is debited. If you are getting the margin again, then it will be credited again. Accounting for open options as on the balance sheet. Suppose your open option position is open, and meanwhile the year end and you are preparing the balance sheet. So what happened? The premium account should be shown under the head current assets or current liability, as the case may be. Suppose the balance is more, then you will show it as a if you have taken long position, then it is considered as your current assets. If you have taken short position, it means you have earned it, then it is shown as current liability. Can you tell me why it is not actually for long position premium is expenditure? Then why it is not put up in profit and loss account and considered as a current assets? See, this is again a logical question. You can reply with logic. Are you getting my question? When you are paying the margin, you are sure that this is expenditure, and this money you are not going to get now. Then why it is not directly shown as an expenditure? If the year close in between, suppose you have entered into March month contract, April month contract in the month of March. So premium you have paid in March, the options result will come in the month of April, and in between the financial year ends on 31st March. So what you will do with that premium account, debit or credit balance? That is the question. So they have said that it will be considered as either current assets or current liability. It means if your premium, as you are a trader, obviously you will be having both positions. You might be taking long position, you might be taking short position. If you are taking long position, then you are paying the margin. If you are taking short position, then you are receiving the margin. So if your payment is more than receipt, then the balance will be shown as current assets. Remaining amount will be shown as current assets. If your receipt is more compared to your payment, then the remaining amount will show in current liabilities. Why? Why not expenditure or profit? It is actually profit for short position. Then why it is not shown as profit to the short position, expenditure to long position? Why it is not shown as expenditure to the long position? Can anyone? Can anyone? Any guess? Why it is showing as a current assets or current liability? Suppose I have taken long position in option contract by paying 10 rupees margin. So when I have, sorry, premium, when I have paid this premium, actually it is considered as prepaid expenses. Yes or no? Can it be considered as prepaid expenses? Because the result of that option contract is going to come later. So I am betting on future. So this cannot be considered as loss right now. This cannot be considered as loss right now. Expenditure means loss. Over here. Is it clear? So that's why it is showing as assets. And if you suppose received a premium, it cannot be shown as income. Because income and expenditure will be decided when the contract will mature. It will be decided on the date of maturity. Yes or no? So that's why it is showing in current assets or current liability. Okay, now final settlement. What will happen on the final settlement? The buyer holder will recognize premium as expenses. See over here. When the final settlement will be done, on that day, the premium will be recognized as expenses in profit and loss account. Is it clear? On exercise of option, buyer holder will receive favorable difference, means profit. Option contract, if you are exercising your right, it means you are in profit. So will receive favorable difference between the final settlement price and the exercise, that is exercise or expiry date, and the strike price, which will be recognized as income. So this is your income, this is your profit. What will happen to the seller? The seller writer will recognize premium as an income. So premium will be income for them. So they will recognize on the date of maturity. See the word, see the heading, final settlement. It means at the time of final settlement, long position or long position, premium will be recognized as expenses in profit and loss account. For short position, premium is recognized as income in profit and loss account. On exercise, obviously, short position will have loss. Am I right? If option contract will be exercised, which position have loss? Obviously, short position have loss. So the loss will be recognized. Such payment will be recognized as a loss. So seller have three entry. One is premium, one is profit or loss, and third one is margin. Because they have also paid the margin. Short position have also paid the margin. So as soon as the options get exercised, margin paid towards such options will be released by the exchange, which should be credited. So previously it was debited to the margin account. Now it will be credited to the margin account. And bank account will be debited. Is it clear, student? So these are logical steps, right? You might be realizing now that these are very logical steps. Three types of account. Which three types of account are there, student? I'm not talking about derivative, general. I'm just testing and verifying my testing your knowledge and verifying my knowledge. 3 types of account. Very good. Personal account. Second one, nominal account, okay, and real account. Very good. In Gujarati, we called it વ્યક્તિગત ખાતું, ઉપજ ખર્ચ ખાતું, and માલ મિલકત ખાતું. Am I right, students? In English, we called it personal, nominal, and real accounts. So if you know these rules, the debit and credit rule for three types of account, then obviously the same thing will apply over here. The basic knowledge of the account and the in detail knowledge of derivative will be sufficient to understand in a logical way how the accounting will be done. So now we can skip these aspects and directly come into taxation aspect. Just 1 minute. Yeah. Whenever you will make profit and loss from any derivative transactions, how the accounting will be done related to that. That's what we are going to discuss over here in brief. Prior to financial year 5-6, transactions in derivative were considered as speculative transactions for the purpose of determining tax liability under the Income Tax Act. It means before financial year 2005-6, if any profit which you will made from FNO means derivative, any profit, whether it is from forward contract, future contract, or option contract, it is termed as profit from speculative transaction as per Income Tax Act. Is it clear, student? Up to these 2 lines is clear? Okay, so what is the definition of speculative transaction now? In the view of the section 43 subsection 5 of Income Tax Act, which defines speculative transaction as a transaction in which a contract for purchase or sale of any commodity, including stocks and shares, is periodically or ultimately settled otherwise than by the actual delivery or transfer of commodity or stocks. However, such transactions entered into by hedger and the stock exchange members in the course of jobbing or arbitrage activity were specifically excluded from the purview of definition of speculative transaction. So your transactions will be, definition is given over here, but we need not to be that much detailed about that one. It means all transactions are considered as speculative transactions if you are able to prove that your transaction is done for hedging, or if exchange members, that is brokers, are doing such transaction, then it can be considered as part of jobbing, means part of job or arbitrage, and that will be excluded from the definition of speculative transaction. Is it clear? Let me give you one more example. Suppose you are going at bank to do future contract on foreign currency, then it is speculation. But if one bank is doing future contract for currency with another bank, it is not speculation. because they are doing it for hedging. If you are doing it for hedging, then definitely in your case also it is not speculative, but you have to prove it that I already have one position, and to do hedging of this position, I am taking the simultaneous position. In that case, it is not speculative. Is it clear? Now, why we are focusing on this speculative transaction? Why we are so afraid of calling our transaction a speculative transaction? Why businessmen or the persons who are doing trading in derivative don't want to call their transaction a speculative transaction? So this is written in the next paragraph. In view of the above provisions, most of the transactions entered into a derivative by investors and traders were considered as a speculative transactions. The tax provisions provided for different treatment with respect to set off and carry forward of loss on such transactions. Loss on derivative transactions could be set off only against other speculative income, and the same could not be set off against any other income. This results in payment of higher tax by SSC. Are you getting, student, now? Why derivative transaction? Why people don't want to say derivative transaction as a speculative transactions? Are you getting it or not? Because if it is considered a speculative good, very good. If it is considered a speculative transaction, then there are separate norms for charging the tax. Second one, if you have made a loss, then it cannot be compensated. It cannot be, you can maybe, so should set off only against the speculative income of the, and the same could not be set off against any other income. Means if suppose, if I am consider about myself, I have 5 lakh rupees income in a year, suppose, and I have made 2 lakh rupees loss in derivative, then I cannot do 5 lakh minus 2 lakh. That is, I need to pay now tax on 3 lakh. I cannot do that if it is speculative transaction. So this lead to higher tax. Is it clear, student? Okay, so now what happened in 2005? The Finance Act 2005 has amended section 43(5) so as to exclude transactions in derivative carried out in a recognized stock exchange for this purpose. This implies that income or loss on derivative transactions which are carried out on a recognized stock exchange is not taxed as speculative income or loss. It means this act is amended, and now the derivative transactions done on recognized stock exchange, that is BSE, NSE and all, it is not considered as speculative transaction. Thus, loss on derivative transactions can be set off against any other income during the year. In case the same cannot be set off, it can be carried forward for subsequent assessment years. It means you can carry forward your loss and set off against any other income of the subsequent year. Such loss can be carried forward for a period of 8 assessment years. This may also be noted that security transaction tax paid on such transactions is eligible as a deduction under Income Tax Act 1961. So I hope now it is clear that what changes is done in Income Tax Act pertaining to derivative. It gives a huge relief to derivative traders. Otherwise, if any loss made in derivative, that cannot be set off against any other income, that cannot be carried forward. Now you can easily set off against your other income, and you can carry forward it. Your loss can be carried forwarded for deduction for next 8 years. So it means in 8 years you are easily able to set off it, so that you can save yourself from paying the higher tax. security transaction tax. Even this one also there. Whenever you are doing any transactions, you need to pay security transaction tax. So that is also deductible, as you have already paid the tax called security transaction tax, that can be deductible. So what are the provisions? Sell on option. If you are taking short position in option contract, the security transaction tax is 0.017%. Who is paying it? Seller. Why seller is paying it? Because he is actually getting the premium. Sale of future contract in securities, 0.01%. Who is paying it? Seller is paying it. Sell on options in securities where option is exercised, means on the basis of exercise of option, means right to buy. Right, the tax is 0.125%. Who is paying it? Purchaser, means long positions if exercise. If not exercise, then seller, who is getting the premium. So here it is explained. Option in securities shall be option premium, means 0.017% of premium in case of sale of an option in security. Option in securities shall be the settlement price in case of a sale of options in securities where the option is exercised. It means option is exercised. In that case, purchaser will pay 0.125% STT, security transaction tax, on the value, exercise value. See, settlement price. Students, are you getting this? STT is applicable on all sell transactions for both future and option contract, which means seller will be liable to pay. For the purpose, STT, each future trade is valued at an actual traded price and option trade is valued at premium. So future contract is valued at for STT purpose. Security transaction tax will be levied on which amount? So in case of option, it is levied on premium. In case of future, it is valued at actual traded price. So at which price you are trading, accordingly, the tax will be levied. STT payable by the clearing member is the sum of total STT payable by all trading members clearing under him. So trading members liability is to aggregate STT liability of client trading through him. Means trading member need to collect the security transaction tax levied to individual client. They need to pay it to the clearing member, and clearing member will directly pay this tax to the income tax. So if you will see, students, your bill, let me show you if I have the contract note. Just wait 1 minute, student. Is this contract not visible?
Yes, sir.
So this is one of my transactions, right? I am just trying to show you. This is not derivative transaction as such. I think visibility is the issue, right?
Yes, it's so tiny, sir.
Right, right. Okay, just try to adjust. Are you able to see my cursor?
Yes, sir.
See, security transaction tax 17 rupees. Is it visible?
No, it's very small.
What about now? Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
So not clearly. So payout obligations 70,256. It means this is the transaction. ICCL is one clearing corporation, Indian Clearing Corporation Limited. We have learned about NSCCL, National Security Clearing Corporation Limited, right? So NSCCL is looking after the clearing and settlement of derivative transaction. Student, listen. NSCCL is looking after clearing and settlement of derivative transaction. ICCL is looking after clearing and settlement of capital market transaction. So this is one contract note. Contract note is nothing but the bill of your buying or selling. So when I have sold this share, HFFC share, I got under IPO, which I have sold. The revenue is 17,256, out of which security transaction tax is levied 17 rupees. So it is approximately 0. Just do how many percentage it is? 17 divided by 17,256 into 100. So it is 0.01 percentage now currently. This is this year transaction only. Before March, previous year, 5th of February, but it is say rate is same 0.01%. Security transaction tax right now is 0.01%, in which again taxable value of supply 0.48, IGST 0.09, exchange transaction charge 0.47, SEBI turnover fee 0.01, stamp duty 0. So currently the rate of previously it was previous to previous budget. Previously it was 0.0125 and then it is decreased to 0.01. So why this point came in my mind? Because it is the duty of the broker, that is trading member, to collect the STT and pay it to the trading member, a clearing member, and clearing member will finally pay it to the income tax. Is it clear, student? Any question? Okay. Next chapter. Sales practice and investor protection services. As such, as I have said initially when I have started the chapter, when I have started this session, at that point of time only Kirtan was there and I think Onesme was there, that this is totally a theoretical part. Let us see few points which I have highlighted quickly. Some of the areas where investors need to be careful about these investments are discussed below. So under this sales practice and investor protection services, what includes? Some of the areas where you should be careful. Generally, for a students like you and for a candidate like you and me, we have fair knowledge, fair enough, not too much, but background knowledge we have, so that the advisors cannot cheat us. But there are many persons who are very illiterate as far as financial literacy is concerned. They don't know what is share, they don't know what is bond, right? They don't know what is mutual fund, they don't know what is exchange traded fund. So in that case, this much basic understanding must be there before doing investment in any of such avenue. Number one, high return or risk-free investment, right? So always, because generally advisor will tell that this investment gives very high return, but there is a basic rule in finance: high return, high risk. If return is high, risk will also be high. Am I right? Or sometimes some advisor may tell you that this is risk-free investment. Yeah, it can be like FD, bond. These are risk-free investment, but you also need to assume that you will also get return accordingly. Your return will also be of such. It means if it is low risk, then return will also be low. Next, investment advisor services. What do we mean by investment advisor services? As a layman, first of all, you need to understand this. People say that we are running investment advisor, we are running our own firm. What they can do? Investment advisors is an individuals or firm responsible for making investment on behalf of and or providing advice. So they don't have their own sources of investment. Remember, investment advisors are such people who will invest on behalf of us. They will invest somewhere else on behalf of us, or they are just giving investment advice. There are many financial planners nowadays in a market whose their own financial planning is not in right way, but they are doing the financial planning of the people. Am I right, Kirtan?
Yes, sir.
Right? There are no stability in their own financial planning, but they used to do the financial planning of the population, and people are going to them like anything.
Yes, sir. It happens a lot.
Yeah, they are paying a huge charges for that. So you need to understand it clearly. What are the roles, responsibilities, and what the investment advisor can do. You cannot have the blame faith on them. Unsuitable investment recommendations. Many a time people give unsuitable investment recommendations. Right? We also have many people in surrounding of us who are giving such advice. There is no base for this advice. Suppose if I have seen, that I am from a rural background, I have seen many of the people who are coming from city, they advise to the people of village that what is there in the agriculture land, you sell this agriculture land, purchase some good property in the city, and you will earn the interest. Right, Kirtan? Particularly when your relatives will come to know that you have money, you have received money from somewhere. Maybe suppose some insurance policies from where you have you have got good amount. At that point of time, you will start getting a phone call, and your relatives will come at you to discuss the good investment alternatives. So as such, it is not a profit motive sometimes, but particularly as an investment advisor, if you are investment advisor, you need to see that which are the suitable investment alternative for them. Which are the suitable investment alternative for them. The person who don't know anything about the stock market, who don't want to take risk, and if you will inform them if you will guide them to do investment in stock market, then it will be havoc. You should guide them properly, either about the mutual fund if they want to take some sort of risk, or about the bond, or about the FD. Next topic. This word is many a time coming, churning. Churning refers to when securities professionals making unnecessary and excessive trade in customer account for the sole purpose of generating commissions. Nowadays, this is stopped up to some extent. Have you got the definition of churning? Security professional, like suppose your dealer, you have, suppose I have account in this MSFL, and my dealer means employee, one of the employee of MSFL is doing unnecessary and excessive transactions on my account. Why? Just for generating the commissions. Investors should be careful to review their monthly account statements. So nowadays it is mandatory. Student, if you have Demat account, any one of you have Demat account over here, Kirtan, I think you have, right?
Yes, sir.
Then you might be getting messages about the balance,
Yes.
right, from BSC, NSC, not from your broker. Your broker will definitely send you the message, but you will also get messages from BSC and NSC.
Yes, sir.
I think on weekly basis, Kirtan.
Yeah.
Right, that on so and so date, what is your account? Why they have made this? Even you are getting mail, your account statement will be mailed to you.
Yes.
Why
yes,
this?
I
Yes,
made.
right. We are keep on getting the mail. Why? So that this churning can be stopped. Previous क्या होता था कीर्तन पहले? You have opened the account, you are hardly doing the transactions, but on your account, the brokers were keep on doing the transactions.
Like without permission?
Yes, without permission. Because
Oh.
suppose, Kirtan, you and me have seen such situation less. But if you will ask to your parents if they are doing it, or any person whose age is more than 40, and who have involved themselves in the trading in their young age, that is means when they were 20 or 30. The things which I am talking, it is just before 10 years. Right? Where suppose I am the employee, Kirtan, I am giving you why they are doing it. I am suppose employee of MSFL. Now MSFL is pressurizing me to generate brokerage. Right? So I will keep on trading in your account, some safe security. In some safe security, I am keep on trading, so that brokerage will be, what will be my transaction, what will be my motive, that whatever the brokerage amount there, that will be minimum profit.
But sir, how much brokerage will earn from it? Like brokerage rates are very low.
So whatever, now it is lower, Kirtan, now it is lower. That's what I am telling to you. Before 10 years, it was not lower.
Okay, sir.
Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Now there are strict measures also. People are aware also. There are nowadays, even for each and every transaction, you are getting messages also. Previously, there was no such facility. You are unaware. You don't know what is happening with your account. There you are totally dealing with your account. Then investor seminars. Kirtan, have you attended any such seminars of mutual fund, or any other class students have attended?
Yes, sir. About SIP a long time ago.
Yeah, about SIP. Have you taken dinner over there?
No, I went early.
Okay, you went early. So nowadays, actually, due to this COVID, it stops. But it's good, huh? There is no problem. If the situation before COVID, it means in a normal situation, it is as good as to attend, particularly Kirtan, to persons like you. Right? Those who can devote 1 hour or 2 hours, they have to attend such seminar. They will give you n number of angle to speak. Am I right, Kirtan?
Yes, sir.
They will give you n number of angles because they, from their perspective, they are doing marketing. Right? They are showing you the rosiest picture, not rosy, rosiest pictures of investing, of the opportunities available through SIP. But as a finance students, you will learn a lot from the statistics which they will present, the example which they will give, the example which they will give. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Have you heard the story of bamboo tree, Kirtan?
No, sir.
Chinese bamboo tree. Have I said anything in third semester about this Chinese bamboo tree?
Don't remember, sir.
Okay. What are the advantage of SIP investment? They are explaining it through this Chinese bamboo tree. Just you search on the Google Chinese bamboo tree, and then you will come to know that once you see what are the advantage of SIP, doing investment through SIP. Student, I'm only, please don't feel that I'm only concentrating on Kirtan, but he's replying, that's why I'm using his word. Whenever I'm using the word Kirtan, it means I'm telling to you all, right? A Chinese bamboo tree is such tree. If you will plant it today, any idea within how many days it will grow up? It means it will be visible. Any guess?
Few years.
Yeah, generally few years, Kirtan. So once you will put the seed of the Chinese bamboo tree, it will take, I think, 1 year to be visible. Then what will be the size after 1 year, after at the end of 2 years? Can anyone? Any guess?
No, sir.
Hardly 1 feet. What will be the size after 3 years? Any guess?
As per 1 feet in 1 year, it should be like 3 feet.
Right, approximately 2 to 3 feet. What will be its size at the end of 5 years? Any guess?
5, at the most 6 or 7.
Approximately 50 feet.
Oh,
Getting me, students?
yes, sir.
So they are saying, this is actually the real story. Yeah? This is not, there is no any exaggerated. Just wait for 1 minute. Is it visible? Is this?
Yes, sir.
A Chinese bamboo tree takes 5 years to grow. It has to be watered and fertilized in the ground where it has been planted every year. It doesn't break through the ground for 5 years. So it is even what we have discussed, then it break through after 5 years. After 5 years, once it break through the ground, it will grow 90 feet in 5 weeks. This is the real story. It means till 5 years it will be underground only. Every day you need to fertilize, every day you need to water. Are you getting me, student?
Yes, sir.
So this is like SIP investment. Every month you need to give 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000. And if you every day you will keep on checking. Now, is it possible that every day the gardener will unearth and check that whether this plantation is started or not?
No, sir.
Every day, the simple thing which you have to do is you need to give water and fertilizer, water and fertilizer. Even you have to remember where you have planted. You need to do some marking there. Otherwise, every day, if you will even move by 1 inch, getting my point? In terms of plant, in terms of giving water and fertilizer, if you will every day move by 1 inch, then it will not be grow. Even you need to the mark where you have planted the seed. In 5 years, no breakthrough. And at the end of 5 years, when it come through, then in the next 5 weeks, it will have 90 feet height. So this is one good story. Generally, these peoples were, I have seen it, I have not, I have attended one seminar, I haven't listened it there, I have listened it in one video, but this is true. They are correlating it with SIP. So I will advise everyone that whenever you will get opportunity to attend such investor seminars, it is generally arranged free of cost by mutual fund, and they are also giving to attract the people. They are also providing food and all. They are arranging it in good hotels. One of my friend frequently tell me to come, but somehow I am not able to. Once only. I have till time in my 34 year of age, I have attended only one. But I will suggest that you should, whether to invest or not, that depends on you. You can take a decision. No one will force you there to invest, but it is advisable to attend. Okay. So then contact with consumers, that is prospective investor, how you should contact, when you should contact. These all are very basic things students given over here. I will advise all of you to go these things. Understanding the risk profile of the client, investor, any broking firm or any this investment advisor should try to understand first the risk profile of their investor, their client, that whether they are high risk taker or low risk taker, what is their sources of income. According to their sources of income, you should suggest some investment alternative to them. So this is understanding the basic profiles. Anti-money laundering procedures. Written means over here the registered intermediaries. These brokers are considered as registered intermediaries. So it is there. It is told that only deal with registered intermediaries only. It is one. Suppose let us come to do and don't. See. Yes, client account of the individuals. Yeah, see, general do's and don'ts for investors. Always deal with market intermediary registered with SEBI and stock exchanges. So whenever you are investing in stock market through any intermediaries, ensure that they are registered with SEBI. Suppose all brokers, which we call trading members, are registered under SEBI and member of the exchange, then and then you will get the foolproof facility, otherwise not. So it is the duty of the these intermediaries that while registering the client, suppose when you are going to MSFL for opening your trading account, so obviously once you will open trading account, you will keep on doing financial transactions over there. That is depositing money for buying the share and withdrawing money when you will sell the share. So it is the duty of that intermediary that any unauthorized money laundering activity will not be done in that account. Why KYC is required on this? When suppose you are opening a bank account, then it's the duty of the bank that any unauthorized transactions will not happen to your bank account. This is what we might have heard, this money laundering word many a time. but this is basically unauthorized transactions of the money in your account. Now, in detail, you need to refer this entry, Anti-Money Laundering Act 2002. Customer due diligence. Obtaining, what do we mean by customer due diligence, CDD? Obtaining sufficient information, customer's identity, beneficiaries identity, verifications of the beneficial owner. Beneficial owner means, suppose I am working on behalf of Marwadi University, then I may be considered as a client, but Marwadi University is the beneficial owner. Then clients of special categories, non-resident client, HNI, high net worth individuals, trust, charities, NGO, companies, politically exposed person, current or former head of the state. These are the different categories of the client which intermediary should do. Client identification procedure, KYC, as I have said, KYC is very important norms in any, for any financial intermediaries or for any financial institutions. Documents to be obtained from customers. In case of individual, we all are aware, PAN card, voter identity card, driving license. In case of company, these are the detail and these are the documents required. In case of partnership, if you are opening the trading account of any partnership firm, these are the details required and these are the documentations required. Investors grievance mechanism, that if any grievances are there against the trading member, that is against the broker, then how it will be handled, that is briefly explained over here. SEBI has also prepared one portal that is called as SCORES, SEBI Complaint Redressal System. SEBI Complaint Redressal System, SCORES, and general do's and don'ts for investors. So students, just go through it. Sample MCQ questions are also given over here if you are going for test. So we are not discussing this theoretical aspect in detail. If any one of you have any question, you can ask. I think many questions are given over here, sample question, total 50 sample questions are given. Yeah, any one of you have any question? So as such, this is a quite theoretical aspect, all sessions, right? Majority of the sessions in which is quite theoretical aspect. Number two, the time which we have for completing this whole module, you can see approximately 160 pages are there. Right? Definitely, time in the sense, I cannot devote 40 sessions. It will be difficult for you to attend 40 sessions. So in that context, we have less time. So in which I have tried to give you the glimpses of the important thing. I'm not able to cover it 100%, but I have tried that all the important aspects will be covered. I will still suggest that once the situations will improve, you should go for attending this, both the test. One is equity sales and second one is this equity derivative, NISM module. Is it clear, students? Anytime if any one of you have any questions related to this, you can contact me. You are the part of that Google Classroom or the recorded session. This last one I will upload by Monday. Are there, you can refer that. Any question, anyone wants to give any feedback? Any comments? Any scope for improvement? Avni, Jogeshwari, Kirtan, Onesme. These are the 4 students who are most serious in attending the sessions, who are present right now. Would you like to comment anything? Okay. Fine. So this will, as I'm saying, these are very fundamental knowledge, right? As such, even sessions are not required for finance students. If you will see today, the sessions are not required. But why we have given the sessions, we know. Otherwise, you are not going to read it. These all are very fundamental knowledge. How the taxations are done, what is forward, what is future. Just start thinking from the first session itself. It's all about just reading. But if we will simply tell you to read, you will not read it. Right? Okay, thank you, class.
Thank you, sir.